Okay, can somebody confirm you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank you. All right, you should be seeing my screen now. Are there any questions before we begin? All right, today is July 29th, and we are supposed to be starting and discussing the unknown project. Any questions about any of that? All right, let me state that this project is a project that some people do not attend the lab, and then they get confused on this project. So please attend the lab. And where do I have it? There it is. So this is a lab project, and you can get it. Let's go here. Guess we can shut that down now. That too. You can get it by scrolling down and looking at week 5 lab. We have 2 week 5 labs, actually 3. If you come down here, we have week 5 lab unknown tests. I guess week 5 lab is right here as well. Option 7. That's odd. I got that a little wrong, don't I? Oh, this is week 4. That's why. All right. That's because it's the summer. Um, so 7 and 8 is in week 5. So what we're going to be looking at is under week 5 lab, and I'm going to show you the unknown instruction file, which I'll do directly from my computer because that will show better. Um, and we'll talk about the unknown list of species. Let me get that one open too. All right. This unknown project is a 75-point lab project. You will do a project from mostly now to the rest of the end of the term, working on the unknown project, where your goal is to try and identify the species of bacteria that I'm going to send to you. Here are the possible species in this unknown list file shown on the list. What is that, about 12 of them right there, maybe 11? And then those are gram negatives. These are the gram positives, another 11 or 12 species. What I'm going to do is send you a number, and the number will stand for one of these species. And then for the rest of the term, you're going to be doing tests trying to identify which species your number is. Initially, I'll be sending you 2 or 3 tests, which I will choose just to get the project running. And then after that, you will take a look at your results, and then you will request a test to further identify your species. So initially, I'll send you the gram stain, and if it's gram negative, you've now narrowed it down to these species of bacteria. Any question about that? And you've excluded all the gram positive, all of these here. I'll also give you the gelatin hydrolysis test. Let me blow this up a little so I can see it a little better. which should be this test here. Come on. And if it is negative, it then narrows it down to these species here. Yeah, let's go all of these. And then remove that one. And if I give you a third test, it'll probably be PR lactose, so gram stain. Where'd my highlighter go? Gelatin hydrolysis. And then if I give you a third, I'm not sure I'll give this to you, but I probably will, because this is the summer. The PR lactose test, and if the result is AG, you've then narrowed it down to these 4 species here. And so then you would take a look at this and then choose a test to further narrow down your species. And you can only ask for 1 test at a time, or else you break dichotomous logic. And a good test to run would be something like methyl-red. Because if it's positive, it narrows it down to only 2. But you could do something else, like VP test, and if it's positive, you narrowed it down to 2 there. So let's go ahead and remove those. What's good about methyl-red is there's no question. It's either a plus or minus. You'll note on the VP test that we have negative, positive, variable, and negative. If it's positive, it'll be these 2. But if it's negative, oh good, the lecture file just finished, so my computer will start working. If it's negative, it then means it is this one, and this one, and the variable. A variable can be either a positive or a negative, and that's explained right down here. Variable. Well, that's odd. Why isn't there? Oh, there's a V there. Which is either a negative or a positive. Where the heck is the positive? So a variable you have to treat as both a negative and a positive. We do have some ND. ND stands for no data. That means this test is not normally run for these organisms. And if you have an ND result, then you must treat it as a variable. So obviously doing the capsule test on the gram negatives would be no good for you because you can't identify anything. There is another possible test you could run. Where the heck is it? There it is, citrate test. You could run the citrate test, and if it's positive, it would be these 3. And if it's negative, it's the one of the 4. And you get to choose the next test, okay? And then I'll send you the results after the culture has incubated and grown. The results I send you will be pictures for the different tests. You should obviously look at this table to see what the tests possibility are. And then you should also go look up the test. Let's see, I gotta go here. You scroll down here. And after lab 5, we have week 5 lab unknown tests. It tells you the different tests. This is actually 2 tests together, 5, 7% salt media. So you should probably look up the test for the gram stain, although you kind of know that one, but it wouldn't hurt you to take a look at that. And you should look up the test for the gelatin hydrolysis because I'm going to send you the results to it. But the gelatin hydrolysis, and one reason why I'm sending it to you is this test takes the longest to incubate. You will not get any results until a week or longer after you request that test. Tells you what the test is, what the possible results are, how long it'll take, and how you run the test, the method, and what the possible results are. So if you take a test that takes a long time, don't be expecting the results right away, and don't send me an email saying, "Where are my results? I asked for it 4 days ago." For example, if you request the MR test, you're not going to get any results until 5 or more days after you request the test. The gelatin hydrolysis is the longest, it's 7 or more days. I'm going to have you starting your results today, so I'm going to pretend like I'm going to send you the number for your unknown bacteria species tonight, and you'll be starting the gelatin hydrolysis test tonight, because this test you won't get the results for a week. And then next Tuesday, I'll send you the results. You're going to start the gram stain on Tuesday, and you'll be starting the PR lactose test. You'll be starting that on Monday, and that one takes a day to run. Any question about any of that? And then I'll send you the results all together on Tuesday. The reason for me sending you the first couple of tests is that I looked at this project, and with 20 students, figuring that there are about 5 tests that the students will need to run on average, 5 or 6, and that means that there's 100 different tests for one project. And I just decided that 100 different requests and then my sending results to the students, that's just way too much work on my part for one project. And so I spoke to the other microbiology instructors and I said, how about if I choose the first couple of tests and send them the results? And then after that, you guys choose the test and then I'll send the results. And that way, by sending one email to the entire class, instead of sending out 60 emails to individual students, I'm sending out one. And that will greatly reduce the contact between my students and myself, making this project much more doable. Any question about any of that? So that's why I'm choosing the first 3 tests, and I will send you the results on Tuesday in one email. At the same time, I'll send you the number. I'm going to pretend that I'm sending you the number tonight so that you can get started on the test tonight. And then I'll send you the gelatin hydrolysis results next Tuesday. Any question about that part? All right. What else do I need to say about the number and the test? Hmm. Can't think of it, so let's go on to the instructions. The identification of the unknown bacteria is something that almost all microbiology courses include. And although you're not going to be actually doing this project, you will be doing it virtually. We will do it online, and hopefully it'll challenge your knowledge and skills in learning laboratory techniques, as well as your ability to critically evaluate the information that you obtain, and then effectively communicate this information, like requesting the future tests, and then submit the lab report. You read about the rationale for the project. I thought I had this highlighted. Oh no. Oh well. Read about the rationale of the project format. You need to, well, you don't really need to isolate the bacterial species because I'm just going to send you one number. Normally, if you were to go to a microbiology lab, we'd give you a tube which will have two bacteria species in it, and you're supposed to streak it out 2 times to get a pure culture, grow that pure culture up, and then use that as your stock culture. Now, we're online, so I decided to simplify it, and we're just sending out one number of one species, but you should go through the pretending that you are going to streak this out on a plate for getting isolated colonies. Take one single isolated colony and then streak it out on a second plate to get isolated colonies. Take a isolated colony from the second plate and then use that colony to set up your stock culture. And then use your stock culture for all future tests. Now, I said you have to pretend to do this because we're doing this online, but you should do that and then write that up in your report. Any question about any of that? And that's just something you should do if you were actually doing this online, where you streak it out and you obtain a pure culture. If you only streak it out one time, there's a 30% chance that you'll have a mixed culture for your stock culture. And I've actually had a few students do that, in which case they had to repeat what they had done and start all over. For doing this, you can use the table I gave you for the results. And that's simply the unknown list, SP20. You can also use Berge's manual to help you. You can use the textbook to help you. When you're requesting tests, you need to use dichotomous logic. Dichotomous logic is a series of yes, no, or true, false questions. For example, if first you were to do the gram stain, there's gram, all organisms, so all, I can write that, kind of. You can then split it down into gram positive, and gram negative species. You can then do the gelatin. Let's say it's gram positive, so we can cross out gram negative. And then you can do the gelatin hydrolysis test, where we will get gelatin positive. Species, and then gelatin negative species. And let's say it's gelatin negative. Cross out the gelatin positive. And then you can do the PR lactose test. This one actually splits into three, by the way, and that's okay. We have lactose AG, lactose A. Oops. Let me just move that down a little. And then lactose negative. And let's say it's lactose AG. So you can then cross this one out and that one out, and then do a test to differentiate the species, which are lactose AG, gelatin negative, and then gram. That should have been gram negative. Oops. Oh well, gram positive. Okay, any questions about any of this? The point is dichotomous logic, asking one test at a time, where the results mainly split into one of two yes, no answers. And you will be doing the gram stain first, and then well, actually the gelatin hydrolysis first, and then the gram stain, and then the lactose test. So in a way, you are doing even the first three that I'm setting up. You're going to be using dichotomous logic on the first three. It's just I'm going to send you all the results at one time, and I really should send them in three different emails, but that would increase my emails to you guys to three, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to send it one email for the entire class. And then that'll reduce my email contacts with you by 60. Is that right? Or is it 30? 20 times 3, yeah, 60. All right. Any question about that? So that's dichotomous logic. If you don't use dichotomous logic, I will simply ask you, this project is supposed to be using dichotomous logic. Please confirm that you want 2 or 3 or more tests all at one time, in which case you'll get a penalty for not using dichotomous logic. Some students at the end of the term, they wait till the very end of the term to begin the project, and then they ask for a whole bunch of tests at the same time. And I understand that, but realize you're going to get a penalty. And I've changed the way I do it now. At the end of the term, if you ask for a whole bunch of tests at the same time, I'm going to just answer back, this project is supposed to be using dichotomous logic. You can only ask for one test, and that way you won't finish the project. So this project will take about 2 weeks for the average student to complete, and that's because you request a test, you then wait for the test to incubate, wait for the results, and then you get the results back, look them up, request another test, it has to incubate, you get the results back, and generally you'll be asking about 5 to 6 tests for each student. That's the average student. Now, a lucky student may only need 4 tests. You'd have to be very lucky to get it done in 4 tests, but most 5 or 6 tests. And then an unlucky student will be 7 or 8 tests that they're asking for. So you'll need about 2 weeks to get the project finished. So don't wait to the very end. Get started soon. Any question about that part? All right. So pretend to streak it out and isolate it. You can do that. And then when I do send you the results, you should put your results in your unknown notes page. Let me show you where that is. Your unknown notes page. The unknown notes page will be graded. It'll be worth 5 points. It's due near the end of the term, one day before the project is due, and the unknown notes pages will close on August 26th. Your project is due on Wednesday, August 27th. Guess I'll leave that here. Go back to your unknown notes pages. Oh, that's not where I wanted to be. Now, if you open up your unknown notes, I already got it open. I've got a speed grader, but up here or down here, you will have a link for uploading a document. There are two ways to do the unknown notes page. You can be very formal in writing up your results on your unknown notes page and giving all the information here, your daily activities, what tests you request. You need to request them here. I will provide you with results. I will put them in the comment section. Please do not use the comment section. If you do use the comment section, I will delete it. Comment section is for me to give you a comment, especially your results, but other comments as well. If you want to put a comment, put it in your document that you're uploading to your unknown notes pages. In that document, you should have, like I said, the test request you request, the results I send you. That's your observations on that test, your conclusion. That is your interpretation of your results. You should also have the species under consideration in your unknown notes pages. And then any comments or anything else that you want to write in your unknown notes page. It should be in your unknown notes page. Let me stop sharing for a minute and I'll show you from an earlier term. Am I sharing? No. Okay. I need to stop the sharing because the earlier term has been graded. I don't want to show you the grade. And go here. So I'll erase the student's grade and then I'll start sharing and then talk about the unknown notes pages. Go to an earlier term. Not last term, that would be too easy. I don't know if the term will be shown to you or not. And then I'll stop the share and put the student's grade back in. If I go way back, then no one would ever see it, but I haven't gone way back, so I need to put the grade back in. Well, that's not very good, so let's go to a better one. There we go. All right, let me share my screen now. So here's the students' unknown notes. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 different documents they've submitted. We're looking at the last document. And you'll note that I give the test results here and any comments. There's really no comments that I'm adding here other than the student is done requesting. But here they asked for the gelatin test on the 22nd, the gram stain on the 27th, the PR lactose on the 28th, and the results came in for all three on the 29th, October 29th. They have the results, the gram stain, and they interpret this as gram negative. Where's the gelatin test? They next have the PR lactose test. There it is there. They interpret that as PR lactose negative. Here's the gelatin test. Which one is theirs? Bottom tube is the unknown. So is gelatin positive? Is their interpretation? What the results is that the gelatin is liquid. The interpretation or conclusion is the gelatin test is positive. And then they have the species under consideration. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then they asked for the indole test on the first. They got the results back. Maybe on the fourth. And there's the results. It looks like indole negative is the interpretation, narrowing the species down to 2 species. Rhodius mirabilis, Pseudomonas aeruginosa. And then they asked for one more test, methyl red test, which is also negative. And you are allowed to request one confirmation test. So this person has narrowed it down to 1 species, which, where do they say it is? Pseudomonas aeruginosa, but they wanted to do one more test. You can ask for one confirmation test. And they did the H2S test. It's H2S negative, confirming that the unknown, that number was 49, is Pseudomonas aeruginosa. They have a table here. The table is not required in the unknown notes page. They could have stopped it right there. The table is required in the unknown report. If you put all of the information in your document, meaning the person has, and the last time, has all the data, like from when I gave the first test results on October 29th, as well as all the other results and all the test requests the student is making. Then you can just copy this document and add it directly to your lab report. You do need to add more things to your lab report, but if you do your report formal, you can just copy and put everything in one document. You can just copy this document and put it into your lab report. You can also write up your information informal in the lab report, informal in the unknown notes, and that's fine. You don't need to be formal in your unknown notes, but your lab report should be written up as a scientific lab report, so it should be formal. And then you would have to change the wording from your unknown notes to your lab report. And another thing you could do is you don't have to add all the information to the last document. You could only have, well, let's do the first one, for example. In the first one, I have the dates that they got and then the results that I sent on the 29th. And then that's it. For the second one, they could just have the date, the results that I sent around November 7th. If you do it this way, then you can't just copy the document and put it in your lab report. And if you do copy the document and put it in your lab report, remember you have to write your unknown notes formal. Any question about any of that? All right. Let me stop the share. And then go back and put the student's grade back in this assignment. Oh, wrong one. Let's close that down. Close that down. And then start sharing my screen again. All right, should be seeing my screen again. So those are how you can write up the daily lab notes in your unknown notes. You can be formal or you can be informal. If you're formal, you can just copy those and stick it into the lab report. You can also write everything in the document where when you submit a document, the last document will have everything. Or you can do it where the last document only has the last test results. And then your interpretation and results and conclusions and identification. So you can be informal with your unknown notes, but you have to be formal with your lab report. Your daily lab notes only needs to have the information that are requested. Your unknown report, worth 75 points, must have all of that information, meaning your daily activities, and also has to have a few other things, like you should write up your unknown report. Let's blow that up a little more so I can more easily read it. It should be using 12-point font. Do not use double space or use single space. You should put your daily descriptions, including the tests you run, the information you hope to gain from the test, the observations you made from the test. You should not omit any data to make your project look better. You do not need photos, tables, and drawings, but if you do include them, they are very helpful. If you get drawings, photos, or table from the internet, remember you need to state where you got them from. So you have an in-text reference for where that page came from. Each report must begin with the date. We're doing this online, so you don't really need to put the time in. And then when you report a test, all you need to do is say, I ran the Gram test. You do not need to discuss the steps of the Gram stain. I know the Gram stain. You just need to state, I ran the Gram stain, and these were my results. These are my conclusions. The results and the conclusions should be separate because they do differ. Your thoughts and your words in your report should be your own. You may receive advice from other sources, the instructor, other students, but all the work should be your own. If ever you are to quote me, you should put it in quotes and then state where you got it from. I don't think most students quote in the lab report. Occasionally, I've had a student who took the entire information about the bacteria they identified, took it from a web page, and then they submitted the document for their grade, and the document will be plagiarized review, and that plagiarism was caught, and the student got a plagiarism penalty. So he should have put it all in quotes and then stated where he got it from. I probably would have allowed that. It's best not to do that. I don't really have a penalty for something like that, but you should only quote what you need to quote. And I would frown on getting all the information from the bacteria you need from one source and then putting it in quotes and doing that. I probably would give you a penalty for that, but just a minor one because at least you put it in quotes. You're not saying it's your own words. So you should have a microorganism paragraph. After you identify the species, you should have at least one paragraph, not more than half a page, discussing that species. You should give a reference for where you got the information for your microorganism paragraph. You should also give a reference for if you include any tables or figures or drawings from the internet. So you should have at least one reference and perhaps more. You can use whatever citation style you want. In your report, you should have a table or a figure identifying how you obtained your species. Why is that not showing the edge? I think this is a different version of Word here. It's throwing everything off to the side there. Anyways, this is an example where the student had all the species and they split it down to the gram-positive, so they're not showing all the species, but they have all the gram-positive. And then they ran the Cadlase test. It was Cadlase positive, and it narrowed it down to these 4 species. Then they did the PR mannitol, narrowed it down to these 3 species. They then did the PR glucose test, narrowed it down to these 2 species. And then they did the citrate test, and it narrowed it down to 1 species. So you should have a table or a figure showing how you identified your number as what species. Any question about that? Like I stated, this report, as well as the the infectious disease report, will be reviewed for plagiarism. I think it will also be reviewed for AI editions. So if you get anything from an AI, you should put it in quotes and then give an in-text citation for where you got it from, and then put a full citation in the references for where you got the AI information. If you do plagiarize, you'll get a penalty or even a 0 if there's massive plagiarism. Grading criteria is listed below. I do have a grading sheet for this, and let me show you where it is. There's the unknown report grading rubric. You'll get 10, 20, 30 plus 5, 40, 50, 60, 70, 75 points for the grading. If you have no excess media, meaning you used only relevant tests, you didn't have any irrelevant tests, you didn't run any additional tests that you did not need, then you'll get 10 out of 10. If, on the other hand, you have 1 excess media or irrelevant test, you get 8 out of 10. 2, you get 6 out of 10, etc. Was dichotomous logic used in selecting your test? If there was always dichotomous logic used, then there's no excess test. You only ask for 1 test at a time, you get 10 out of 10. If you have 1 excess test, meaning you're asking for 2 at the same time, you get 8 out of 10. Shotgun approach is where you ask for several different tests all at the same time. You only get 2 out of 10. I've never had this done where no logic was used. You get 0 out of 10. Were all of the relevant tests used? As long as you have enough tests to identify your species, you'll have no tests omitted and you get 10 out of 10. If you need 1 more test to identify your species, you'll get 8 out of 10. If you have 2 or 3 tests that are omitted to identify your species, you'll get 6 out of 10. And someone who waits until the very end, they only get maybe one test requested because they waited to the very end, and they're going to have many tests omitted, and they'll get 4 out of 10. I don't think I'll have a shotgun approach, but possible where you're just asking for all the different tests at one time, you get 2 out of 10. Were the correct species included at each step? If you give a test and you have the correct species, then all the species are correct, you get 10 out of 10. If there's one species incorrect anywhere in the lab report, you'll get 8 out of 10. 2 to 3 species incorrect, you get 6 out of 10. Over 5 incorrect species or no species identified in the lab report, you get 2 out of 10. Completeness of the report was all the info asked for presented, meaning did you have the daily notes where you included your test requests on which day, you included the information where you got the results on which day, you gave the results, that's your observation, you gave the conclusions, that's your interpretation, and then you gave the species under consideration. So if all of that is there, as well as your table in the lab report identifying your species and the in-text and the full references, then all the information is there and you'll get excellent 15 out of 15. If there's a few errors, but the logic is understood, you get 13 out of 15. If there's some errors, but I still can understand the logic of your paper, 11 out of 15. If there's some errors and some of the errors I do not understand your logic, you get 7 out of 15. I've never had a paper with lots of errors and hard to read, but that would be 1 out of 15. If you correctly identify the species, you'll get 10 out of 10. If you have a species within the same group or type of species, you get 7 out of 10. If it's outside your group of species, but the gram stain is correct, you get 5 out of 10. And if you have the gram stain incorrect, you get 0 out of 10. Last term was the first time I ever got a student who got the gram stain incorrect. Usually, students don't get anything less than 5 out of 10, and most students, the vast majority, get the correct species, 10 out of 10. Any question about any of that? All right. That's how the assignment will be graded. I should put up a key for how the unknown notes will be graded, but as long as you have all the information that's requested in the unknown notes, let me show you where that is again. You'll get 5 out of 10. Recorded your daily activities, especially your test requests. If you provide your results and your conclusions, as well as the species under consideration, you'll get 5 out of 5. A lot of students do not put in the last results and conclusions for the last test they requested, in which case they'll get a penalty. Some students don't put in the species under consideration, which they'll get a penalty. Some students do not separate the results and the conclusions, and they're treating them, I guess, like the same, in which case they'll get a penalty. Any question about how the unknown notes will be graded? All right. So the body of the text will be worth a large amount of, actually, it's not worth anything because I'm not grading it that way. I just told you how I'm grading it. So I'm getting confused with the infectious disease report. But the paper should be organized, clear, and neat. All information must be typed. It has to be because it's going to be online, except for a diagram. If you make a hand-drawn diagram, you may submit that. Each entry should be dated, and you should be able to get that just from your unknown notes page. Should be free of grammatical and spelling errors. All right. And then this part is what you did if you actually attended the unknown report and go into an actual microbiology lab. We give you a tube shown here, and then you streak it out on 3 different plates to get individual species, and then you streak it out again on a second plate to get individual species. You take the cells from that one second plate from one colony, and then use that to set up the stock culture. And then you use from your stock culture to run all other tests. You keep your stock culture in the refrigerator so it stays alive. Uh, if you need help on a dichotomous process, we have figure B in the last part here with some questions to help you with dichotomous, using dichotomous logic. This does not need to be returned into for your report. You do not need to turn this in. This is just to help you understand dichotomous logic. If you have it, it's here. Someplace we have the answers to that. I'm not sure where that is. Okay, let's talk about your unknown notes. I talked about how the lab report will be graded. That's the species that you're considering. This is help for building dichotomous logic. I've already talked about how you run one test at a time. I got that already downloaded. And this will go through using dichotomous logic. If you want further examples on dichotomous logic, why you should be using dichotomous logic, rules for using dichotomous logic. And then here we have 4 possible species. We use dichotomous logic to separate it into 2, species AB and species CD. And then it's species AB, rectangular, and then we use what species AB is the colony white or not white. And if it's not white, it's species A. If it's white, it's species B. So there's an example of dichotomous logic. If you're perfectly comfortable with dichotomous logic and using it, you don't need to go through this building a dichotomous game plan. And then lastly, I have a sample journal for what your lab report will be looking like. Well, if it opens up, let's go here. Really open up soon. Identification of unknown number 6. You should have the person's name, the class, the term. Obviously, this is a long time ago. And if you don't know Travis Kubota, he used to teach microbiology. He might be teaching it this year. I'm not sure. First day, where he was given a tube and then streaked it out. You'll pretend you're doing that. Colony A, colony B. I don't know why that's not showing there. Something got off. Maybe nope, it's still off. I don't know what's off. Let's just go down to the middle because it'll be a little better in the middle. On day 7, he has observations, activities, those are the tests he's running on that day, and then conclusions. which he should have conclusions for his observations here. So his observations were on a test that he requested on an earlier day, and then he got the results back, and he found heavy growth of colony B. The plate shows pigmentation, and so colony B is yellow, and it's pigmented. And so that should be in the conclusion that colony B is pigmented. Apparently on another day, he asked for the blood auger, and he's got the results here. Is that under observations? Yes. And he's seeing, let me blow that up. The blood auger here, and around the blood, we have a region of beta hemolysis. And so he wrote that down for his observation. Shrink that down now. And so this is his conclusions. Colony B, pigmented, yellow, hemolysis, beta hemolysis. And then he narrowed down the possible species, Staphylococcus aureus, but Micrococcus luteus is also pigmented yellow, but it's not beta hemolytic. And Staphylococcus epidermidis is unpigmented and not beta hemolytic. And apparently those were the species under consideration. So in this point, colony B is really identified as Staphylococcus aureus. And he did a further test where he is doing the activity. He's inoculating the species colony B on mannitol salt agar, the broth. And if it ferments the mannitol, actually this is a broth, so it's not mannitol salt agar, it's mannitol broth. And if it ferments the mannitol, it can grow in 7% sodium chloride, and it would definitely rule out the Micrococcus species because Micrococcus luteus cannot ferment mannitol. Staphylococcus aureus can. Any question about any of that? All right. So a good thing to do in your report is break it down into your observations, the activities that you're running on that day. And for you guys, that would just be the test request for that day. And then he doesn't have it here, but on some other days, he's got a conclusion, right? This day here, he's got a conclusion. Observation. He's not running any tests on this day, apparently. And conclusions, activities. Oh, he does have an activity. Oh, he didn't finish it, so he didn't really do it. But colony B was identified as Staphylococcus aureus. Any questions about that? So you can use this to help you write your lab report. Oops, did I close it down? Yep. I think we're done on the unknown instructions. Yep, I did cover that. All right, any questions about your unknown project? You can write in your unknown notes that you're starting the gelatin hydrolysis test today, but although I'm pretending to give you the number and you're streaking it out, so you can write that in your unknown notes page as well to get a pure culture. So you need to streak it out twice on 2 separate plates and grow up the cells on one plate, then take those cells and grow them on a second plate. And it'll take you a few days to do that, but you should pretend to do that. I'm not going to mark you down if you don't write anything in your unknown notes, but those are things you could do. And I'm not going to send you the number until I actually send you the results. and that just reduces the number of emails I'm sending out by one. Not a lot, but it's one. All right, any questions about this project? That's it for me. If there's no questions, I guess I'll say goodbye. All right, bye.
Good
Thank
night.
you, Professor. Goodbye.